Welcome to Crossroad Connection. We're speaking out for those left unheard. Have you ever thought about the best way to help people who are in need? That's what Crossroad is all about, and today we have someone in the studio with us to help us with this and maybe to help you with your thinking about how can the church best help poor people here and abroad. I have a book with me called Demons of Poverty by Ted Boers. And Demons of Poverty is an excellent, excellent read on how to help people and how not to help people who are poor. Welcome, Ted, to the program.
It's good to be here.
Ted is a good friend of mine. He's been a friend of the Crossroad Bible Institute for more years than I've been here. I've been here 15 years, but you were involved with it long before that, I think. And so it's been great. About once a year, we get together to have breakfast at Big Boys. Remember
There
that?
you go.
Yeah, once a year. We talk about deep things because Ted is a businessman, and a layman, but I've always been surprised and delighted with the level of books that he's reading. I think you're the only layman that I know that we can have those kinds of theological and philosophical conversations.
I enjoy reading them and discussing them with you.
Yeah, so welcome to the program. Last time you were here, we talked about what you learned in Haiti, about how to help people in need and how not to help people in need, that it was not just a simple matter of going over there and here's how we do it in America. There's cultural stuff going on. Let's talk about systemic issues for a moment. And I also want to talk about this more from a spiritual perspective and what you learned on the spiritual journey, because when the system, the government shut that down after years of seeing this as God's hand and a God project, that sent you spiritually, and let's talk about that first a minute. That sent you spiritually into a free fall, didn't it?
Yeah, it totally did. I genuinely tell people that I felt I was called to Haiti in the late 90s.
And you make that so clear in the book too, that you, as you developed it, you saw all kinds of signs of God's leading.
Well, I looked for signs and I asked for confirmations because I wondered, can I possibly be helpful in a country like Haiti that I knew absolutely nothing about? And so I looked for fleeces to confirm that yes, you should go on this journey. And there were actually 3 fleeces that confirmed just going on the journey. So in the first year, there were 3 fleeces.
And then after you were there,
that decision,
you listed 16 miracles that you felt that just could not happen without God's intervention.
Absolutely, and that took place over a period of 2 or 3 years. And there were things that I could not explain any other way, in terms of raising the money that was necessary for this project, getting the type of people that we needed for it
was a
very
task,
large,
millions of dollars.
Well, we had an 11,000 acre project that we wanted to develop on the Atlantic Ocean, a beautiful, beautiful Caribbean piece of property in Haiti, on the north side of Haiti. And so we needed a lot of resources, money, the right people, and sometimes within 3 days I would be praying about, God, we need X, Y, or Z,
and it came
by Friday, and it came. And I started, and I've done this in my own life, so this wasn't unusual for me to track miracles, because it's something I've just done in my own life over the years.
You're a diary keeper,
apparently, apparently. But nevertheless, I started tracking these miracles, and yes, at the end of 3 or 4 years, there were 16 miracles on the list, constantly confirming that we were doing the right thing. And then the boom fell when the government of Haiti shut us down.
You faced just outright lies, outright corruption.
Absolutely.
They would say, "Oh, great idea," and then wait 2 months and then say, "Well, we don't know." I mean, just all baloney.
They'd smile at us in the boardroom when we met with the government folks, and then they would send us a letter 2 or 3 months later saying, "Stop and desist."
I mean,
and the reason for it was very, very simple. We did not bribe in order. I mean, we were bringing a Christian message.
Also that you were Christians.
We were Christians, and we were going to live our faith, and it would be totally.
Probably at that meeting, had you set out a bride, would have kept things going.
Well, I wouldn't have been at the meeting, but we knew the ways to do it, but we weren't about to do that.
Then when that got stopped, and it looked like it's just not going to happen. all those resources,
Yep.
all that time, all that prayer,
Yep.
your faith, you wondered,
Plummeted.
it plummeted. Like, I thought that was all God.
Yep.
Maybe none of it was, and I was just reading God into it.
Or is there a God? I mean, that's
That's what I'm
the
saying. You know,
depth.
then you had to just read
That's
it into
the depth
it.
of my
Yeah.
spiritual journey.
How long did that last?
Oh, in total, it lasted a couple of years. The downward spiral was probably 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, but it took about 2 years to come out of it.
To the extent that I'm out of it, yes.
Yeah, to the extent. Probably. Well, you know what I found, that kind of thing is similar to the grieving period of losing a loved one. 2 years is the main thing, 5 years, and 7 years to really get over it.
Sure, and you never forget it.
And I'm not acting like I got this from a book. As you know, I lost a
Yes.
grandson,
Yes.
and for 2 years,
Yes.
I wondered if God was out there.
Sure.
And now you and I actually, I discovered after I read the book, and I shared with you, we came to the same philosophical conclusion, and it's in the book, and I was shocked when I read that. Why don't you explain to what in layman's terms, what that turning point was
Well,
about the existence of God?
yeah, I read a lot of books about other authors that had struggled with the existence of God, and came to the conclusion through what I read that you can't prove the existence of God and you can't prove the non-existence of God. That's what faith is all about, and so then you can begin to make choices. Are you better off believing X, or are you better off believing Y?
Right.
And so ultimately, I chose to believe that there is a God, and because it's the only way I can explain what happened anyway. Because in the middle of this crisis of the miracle stopping and bad things beginning to happen, yeah, it's easy enough to throw up your hands and say, what happened? But when I gave it some time, as in a year or 2 or 3, and I began to see what was actually happening in this area where we had proposed to build condominiums and apartments and hotels, I came to the realization that we were having greater spiritual impact in that region today for much, much less money than what we ever spent on the materials side of
Targeted,
things.
focusing projects.
And I am totally convinced today that the objective of the project was spiritual, not economic. At least spiritual first, maybe economic later.
Right,
Okay,
right.
And that God is still in control, but He's now. Why we went down this path, I don't know. I can't explain that.
Sure.
But when I look at the results,
Expensive lesson, maybe.
it maybe was it God ordained? I don't know. I don't even try to go there.
Sure.
Okay, but was our time there worthwhile long term? My answer today is absolutely. We are having impact in the region that we were going to do land development. We are having impact in the entire country, literally, as a result of us being there. And this is all not thanks to me or even our other American partners, but thanks to our Haitian partners. Our Haitian partners, after this development project went down, decided to really reinforce the spiritual message in their neighborhood, and then beyond their neighborhood, and then in the entire country. And they're continuing that with amazing results.
Fascinating how, and I think it's important for our viewers, because I think that more people experience doubts and question if God is out there than we know, because I think they don't dare talk about it. Because it looks like they're weak.
There are very few people that you can have this conversation with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're having it with the whole world.
Yeah.
But we've been through that. But I think it's important people understand what you came to understand. You see, when you said, okay, there's no proof that God exists, there's no proof He doesn't exist. And that's why presuppositional apologetics of Cornelius Van Til, I think, are right. Not the evidential politics, because there is no evidence if you're not a believer. And so your presupposition for life either has to be there is a God or there is not a God. And also what the Christian tradition has always said, how do you know that there's a God? Because of the testimony of the Holy Spirit in your heart. And that's what won out in us, that yes, He's there. But we don't have to be afraid, and also we have to realize that when life has doubts, there's people out there who are watching who maybe had tremendous ministry disappointments, or family disappointments, or loss of loved ones, and so forth. And it's when you have those incredibly tough life experiences that you begin to question. And the fact is that the greatest religious spiritual figures in the history of the church have had what is called dark nights of the soul.
Yeah.
And I really wonder if there's something wrong with the faith if you don't have a dark night of the soul sometime, because then you have to wonder, is it just presumption? I can't judge that.
Right.
But I think it's okay to have those doubts.
Yeah.
I feel after loss of my grandson and going through that dark night of the soul that my faith is stronger than ever. It's different, but it's stronger than ever. Can you testify to that?
I don't know if I'm there yet.
Right.
Your experience happened earlier than mine. I hope to obviously get to that point, but it'll be. I think it will be a stronger faith, because it's a releasing. It's a letting go. It's a realization that it's not what I do. It's what God wants to do with the opportunities that He's given me. And so I think that it'll be, I totally agree with you that it'll be a different relationship, as opposed to just accepting something that I was taught when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
I've reasoned my way to the faith.
The book is called Demons of Poverty, written by Ted Boers. You can find it on demonsofpoverty.com, and you can order a copy. It's very, very worthwhile. There's so much more that we could talk about. All I can say, folks, is you got to get the book. That's the only answer. And maybe we got to come back and do this again sometime.
Be happy to.
Because we could do this on a regular basis for all the books that we've read and like to discuss. One final thing.
Yeah.
What have you learned the most from in life? Your mistakes or your victories?
Oh, I think the answer to that one is obvious. It's definitely from the mistakes. The victories you take credit for, and the mistakes you think about.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I try to mentor pastors and so forth, and my son and so forth, and I find out I'm mentoring best out of the mistakes that I made. Yeah, well, God's not finished with us yet.
That's a good thing.
It's a wonderful thing that you could share what you have learned, and I know you're continuing to make a great impact in Haiti and other places. And I'm so delighted to see that you could share what God did to you through this, because I always tell people that you should, our slogan for Crossroad is becoming, help the church, help people in prison, and watch your faith grow.
Sure.
And that's what, it's not as quite so much as us helping these poor people, but it's us growing. You know, what did Calvin say? The poor on earth for the redemption of the rich. You know. Thanks so much, Ted.
It's good to be here.
And thank you for being with us. This has been Crossroad Connection, a great show discussing Ted Boers' book, The Demons of Poverty, a great read. If you're in prison ministry or any other kind of ministry to help people in need, you got to get a copy. We're just delighted that you could be with us today. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that we'll see you again right here next week.